Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Zimbabwe is a failed state, and we are facing a serious economic and political crisis. More than 50% of our people are living in abject poverty. And I agree with Zimbabwe's Catholic bishops who mourned the fact that the country is facing all these serious economic and political challenges. And yet, instead of addressing those issues, the nation is being forced to talk endlessly about this factional war taking place in Zanu PF, fighting over who rules the country. The truth of the matter is, Zanu PF sets the agenda. And as much as we would want to move on, while the factional war is taking place, there will be no moving on. Yesterday, Zanu PF spokesperson Patrick Chinamasa, or maybe Secretary for Legal Affairs, I don't know what his position is, not that it really matters, announced at a press conference that Blessed Geza and others have been fired from the party. And Geza is since fired back, defiantly stating that he cannot be fired from the party. This is what he had to say.
Please read my lips in case you miss my words. Look at my face. Do you see any fear? Do you think you can scare us? Bullshit. Some have been holding meetings to inject us from Zanu PF. You think you can fire us from our party, which we brought with our own blood? Where were you? You were busy scouting, right? Killing our comrades, killing our masses, right? This Zanu PF is ours. It is you who will be living in the next few weeks. Mark my words. Watch this space. I want to tell you this here and now. We don't care. We are ready to face you head on.
I think one of the most obvious questions to be asked, what is so special about Zanu PF? Why is everybody scared stiff of being booted out of that party? After all, this is a party of thugs, corrupt, incompetent, and murderous thugs. The reason why none of the party's leaders would want to leave is that they have created the party in such a way that as long as you are considered a member of the party, you are protected. The minute you are considered an outcast, that is your death sentence. Some people have compared it, Zanu PF, to hyenas. They will fight among themselves But if you are becoming outcast, the minute you are pronounced an outcast, you are splashed with the blood of a god. And hyenas, even if they can see you are a hyena, as long as you smell like a goat, they will eat you. As far as they are concerned, you are now a goat. This is why anyone who is threatened with being booted out of the party will fight hard to stay in the party, because they know that if they were to accept that they've been booted out of the party, vavanyama ya magoro. We have got a political system that Zanu PF has created, this de facto one-party state, where anyone who is not Zanu PF is considered an enemy of the state, and therefore then fair game. This is at the heart of our problem, of our political problem. When Zanu PF faced the 1980 elections, the party made it very clear that if it didn't win the elections, the Bush War would continue. In other words, when the results of the 1980 elections come out, Zanu PF will have a veto whether to accept them or to reject them. And the people voted to end the Bush War. Zanu PF won. And 3 years later, the party launched the now infamous Kukurawondi massacre. The primary purpose of Kukurawondi was to force PF ZAPU to give up its claim to being a separate party. And the late Dr. Joshua Nkomo and his colleagues finally relented in 1987 and signed the Zanu PF ZAPU Unit Accords. And that cleared the deck, allowing Mugabe to launch the de facto one-party state that has ruled the country. Anyone outside Zanu PF was considered fair game, an enemy of the state. The whole state machinery will be mobilized to eliminate them. This is why each time any one of the Zanu PF members are threatened with expulsion, they've fought with everything they've got to reclaim their position as a member of Zanu PF. Because they know that if they were to accept that decision, that is their death sentence. They are now fair game. They are now the hyena that has been splashed with the god's blood. The country should never have allowed this situation to develop. The liberation war objective and values and principles was to end white colonial oppression and secure the freedoms, rights, justice for all Zimbabweans. And yet what we got in 1980 is a political system that basically said Zanu PF was the only government, the only party of government. Anybody else was a threat to the state, to the nation's sovereignty. And this is why when you listen to such talks as the statement by the late Zanu talking about a straitjacket, how anyone who aspired to be a leader in Zimbabwe has got to be faithful to Zanu PF. And in this particular case, if you're not, you'll never be allowed to rule the country.
We wish to make it very clear to all Zimbabwean citizens that the security organization will only stand in support of those political leaders that will pursue Zimbabwe's value, traditions, belief, for which thousands of lives were lost in pursuit of Zimbabwe's hard-won independence, sovereignty, territorial integrity, and the national interest. To this end, let it be known that the highest office on the land is a straitjacket, whose occupant is expected to observe the objectives of the liberation struggle. We will therefore not accept, let alone support or salute anyone with a different agenda that threatens the very existence of our sovereignty, our country, and our people. By the two crucial values, the first and most important, any report and action designed to create instability in Zimbabwe will be made by full force of law. All should be accountable for their actions. Security organizations have resolved.
The tragedy is Zanu PF leaders have brainwashed the war veterans, be they in the army, the police, the CIO, prison services, or in government itself, be they those who were demobilized soon after independence, etc., into believing that anyone other than Zanu PF leaders is not suitable to govern the country. That is the reality. It is tragic. This problem, we should have seen it coming. In Mahatma Gandhi and his fellow Indian nationalists, when they were fighting to end British rule of India, asked themselves, what kind of leaders would an armed struggle throw up? It was a rhetorical question. And they followed it up with, will those be the kind of men and women who would want to rule independent India? And they decided no. They did not want an armed struggle for that reason. We had an armed struggle, whether we liked it or not. The kind of leaders the armed struggle threw up are the type who believe that they have the divine right to govern the country. They have the veto. As much as they would want to pretend that they've given the ordinary Zimbabweans the vote, they have retained the veto. At the end of the day, the Zanu PF and the war veterans will decide who governs the country. This has been at the heart of our problem. We've been stuck with this corrupt, incompetent, and tyrannical Zanu PF dictatorship because the Zanu PF ruling elite and the war veterans had the veto. We could not remove it from office. There was an audio yesterday that was circulating where Blessed Geza was trying to assure the people that the current Geza revolution is a people's project. He claimed that he was in the afternoon of his life. He's fighting to clean up Zimbabwe's political system that has failed the nation. I think the real Geza is what we have seen in that video clip. Determined to stay in power, just as he's determined to stay in Zanu PF. Nothing has changed here. And those who think that Geza and company, if they should prevail, would introduce democratic reforms and end the Zanu PF dictatorship, have their answer. This is somebody who fought in the war. He is a war veteran and believes that he knows best, that he knows all the answers to the country's problems, and therefore then deserves the veto. Yes, he will let the people have a vote, but at the end of the day, he and his fellow war veterans will decide who governs Zimbabwe. And that is not negotiable. That is the reality of Zimbabwe politics. We should wake up to the reality of what is going on here. What is going on here is the factional fighting in Zanu PF is hotting up. And my advice to the people of Zimbabwe, ordinary people of Zimbabwe, is stay out of it. Some people are being tempted to take sides. That is foolish. Because as much as the Geza faction would want the ordinary people to take sides as they did in the 2017 military coup. If they should prevail, if Geza and company should prevail, they will brush aside the ordinary people and impose who should be president, and this so-called interim government, they will have the final say on who gets into that transitional government, and most significantly, what reforms are implemented at the end of the day. Nothing will change. That is the truth. If Geza is clearly defiant with his fellows Zanu PF, taking them head on, and he knows that those Zanu PF thugs are ruthless. But he's prepared to take them head on. What more of the ordinary Zimbabwean who cannot even fight him back? No chance. You will just ride roughshod over the ordinary people, as Zanu PF has done these last 45 years. Nothing has changed. The most important thing for Zimbabweans to do is send a clear message to both factions of Zanu PF that the nation is desperate for change, a real change. And swapping one dictator for another is not the change that the nation is after. 2028 elections must be free, fair, and credible. The 2023 elections were rigged. SADC and the AU condemned the process. And therefore, then Mnangagwa must know that his present administration is illegitimate. That is the fight we are having here. We want an end to the dictatorship. We're not interested in swapping one dictator for another. And we should not allow ourselves to be distracted by Zanu PF factional fighting. Indeed, I started by referring to the Zimbabwe Catholic bishop's statement. Totally subscribe to it. The nation should be focused on ending the political crisis so that we can start addressing the serious, teething economic challenges. And yet here we are. The nation is doing nothing about those teething problems because Zanu PF is having their factional fighting. This is the tragedy of having a dictatorship. We want an end to the dictatorship. And this time we are not interested in swapping one dictator for another. Food for thought. Thank you very much, those who were able to join. Hope you'll be able to join us again at 6 o'clock UK time, 8 o'clock Zimbabwean time. Have a good day.